The Dice Tower is made possible by listeners like you. Thank you for your support. This episode is sponsored by TheOp, also known as USAopoly.
The Dice Tower, episode 713, Cold and Chunky.
Welcome to The Dice Tower, a podcast about board games and card games, and especially the people who play them.
In today's show, Mandy and I are going to share our first impressions of Oath. And it's just going to be our first impressions because this is a big game, folks. And we're going to talk about some other games as well. But we're going to wrap up with a game pie full of some of our favorite escape room games. I'm Suzanne Sheldon.
And I'm Mandy Hutchinson.
I know you've got more butterflies. Come on. Bring it, bring it.
I think this is the last one for a while. And please, this is not to say that I don't enjoy getting them. I do. My list is getting quite robust with butterfly, in different languages. So this is great. So this one here comes from Mohammed, and it is butterfly in Arabic, and it's pronounced farasha. So the plural is farashat. So I have not heard this one before, and it's funny because I do have a lot of friends who speak Arabic, and I don't think this is a word I've ever asked them, so shame on me, but now I have that. So thank you very much for that. It has been added to my repertoire of my butterfly listing, my words of butterfly, different languages. So thank you.
I love that. That's great.
Yeah, it's so great.
I almost forgot. We got to talk about our title polls. So last episode, Money, we talked about what your favorite or preferred way of tracking money in a board game is. And now somebody all up in the comments was like, didn't we just do this one? No, we did not. We did wood versus plastic. That's different than the type of money. But I get why you may have felt that. I get it. And all of this stemmed from a previous social media conversation that some of us were part of. And without a doubt, y'all love your metal coins. I mean, just everybody loves the metal, I guess. Mm-hmm. Almost 63% of you said number one favorite method, metal coins. Mandy.
Yes.
I don't like metal coins.
I like the way they look. I don't necessarily know. I don't dislike playing with them, but I'm very specific about the type of metal coins that I like. Is that weird?
No, because it's funny. It's just like you and space games, or you and dexterity games, or whatever. There's always an exception,
There's
right?
Something, yeah, exactly.
And I say I don't like metal coins, but then, we're going to talk about Oath, and I have the metal coins in Oath, and those coins are great. I don't know. I find them heavy.
Sure.
And I find that they can, if you don't have a proper way to store them, they can dent your cardboard.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or your cards. They can, because they're so heavy, and I don't know. They're beautiful. I get why people like them. They're just not for me. I like fancy poker chips, but poker chips came in at 16%.
Okay.
That was second place.
Yeah, I don't think I
So some of y'all are with me on that.
Okay. Yeah. And I see it, and I get it, and it definitely makes things a bit easier to work with.
Well, and anybody who plays 18XX or train games,
you need that.
Those folks, y'all know who you are out there. They got opinions on poker chips, right? And I think having a set of poker chips that you play 18XX with is kind of a thing within that niche. So
sure.
I wouldn't be surprised if there were some of those votes in here as well.
Absolutely.
Let's see here. Cardboard tokens. Y'all just love you on cardboard coins. About 8% of you said that was your preferred way. Sure. And I thought that the 5.5% of folks who said using just a track around the board. Yeah, Mandy's making a face. Y'all can't see her face. I can see her face. She just made a big old face at the track on the board method.
You know why? Because I am the person who is like the klutziest person ever. Oops. And then all of a sudden, I had $3, maybe I had 20. I mean, who's to say? We don't know. So I don't know. Track is iffy for me.
I hear you on that one.
But I do like the Millennium Blades paper money. That one made me... Whoever put that in there, I am here for that. And yes. That must be Eric Yurko.
Right? Because we got paper money. And we got Millennium's Blade paper money. Because when we were talking about social, I just said paper. And all the Millennium Blades folks had to come out of the woodwork and talk about those fat stacks of Millennium Blades. All right, you get your own category in the Dice Tower poll. And 2% of you did vote for that one. And hey, 2 of y'all did vote for paper money. kudos to you.
Sure.
Good for you for standing up for the classic. I appreciate you, even if I don't appreciate your choice.
Okay, but wait, have you seen that Firefly paper money? It's so pretty. Like, how do you not want to use that?
It's very pretty. It's still paper. It's fiddly to hold.
But wait, what if you put it in? I had friends who sleeved it. I gotta tell you, it was kind of smart. I did enjoy it.
I'm sorry, they sleeved their paper money?
It looks so good, and that it's so artistic, and it looked. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I thought it was pretty smart, and I liked it. I liked the way it looked.
This is a new one to me. I've never heard of somebody who sleeves their paper money.
We should turn that into a song.
I'm impressed.
I sleeved my money and I liked it. It's like a Katy Perry song, but I've turned it into sleeving money. Yeah, okay. I'll work on that one.
Mandy, have another cup of tea. Have another cup of tea. So thanks, folks, for your input on money tracking. We always love, like, this is just so much fun. We love it. We went back to kind of a fun one, cold and chunky. Real simple, folks. Ice cream. Do you like it smooth or do you like it chunky? I don't want to hear about what the chunks are. I don't want to hear about coffee versus vanilla or whatever. Just come on. It's the peanut butter debate, right? Creamy or chunky? Well, let's bring it to the ice cream world. Do you like it smooth or do you like it with bits and bobs in it?
There's only one type of peanut butter, and that is crunchy. Thank you very much.
Oh, it's going to be a good one. We should have save that one for a future one. Be quiet.
Okay.
Save that one.
Sorry, yeah.
So that's this poll. As always, we'll throw that up at the Dice Towers Board Game Geek Guild. Drop your vote. Drop your comments. Tell me what kind of ice cream you want. Yes, we will include non-dairy folks out there.
Yes.
We'll include no sugar folks out there. It's not about that, right? Mm-hmm. It's all about texture. We're playing a texture game here.
Absolutely.
So bring your comments and bring your votes. And, Mandy, we got some games to talk about, including a couple of pretty hefty ones. But I will just tell you, when I'm not being pestered by you to play Xbox games, I've been playing the beta of Railroad Ink Challenge a ton.
Me too. Right before I go to bed, I'm like falling asleep. Woo, here it is.
Now, I finally beat my high score. I got 77 last night.
Are you serious? I can't get higher than 64. Why?
I mean, this game is tough. Railroad Ink Challenge is the new app version. Now, they have it on BGA and things like that. But Railroad Ink Challenge is a lot of what you love about Railroad Ink, but they've added a few extra elements to it in terms of like having monuments that you can kind of get and houses that you can kind of get. It's ridiculously fun. The app is incredibly polished. I am digging it. And I just want to let you all know it's coming. Mandy, you and I should do a review of it later. Mm-hmm. So we'll keep this short. But hey, just a heads up. It's going to be out on Steam and it's going to be out on mobile June 17th. This isn't like a paid promo. I've just been playing the beta and I just wanted to let people know because I'm really having fun with it. So if you play app games and you like Railroad Ink, you got to check out Railroad Ink Challenge. That's coming out June 17th.
And it's quick, easy. Like, do you know what I mean? It's so one of those apps, like I could just like, I'm in a really boring meeting. I'm in a meeting, paying attention, diligently writing notes. Meanwhile, at the ranch, playing a quick game of Railroad Ink Challenge. And then jumping in the meeting with some ideas. So just saying, it's that quick.
Oh, dang, girl.
I hope my boss doesn't listen to this, I swear.
I mean, yeah.
She might.
I really hope so, too.
Sorry.
All right, first game up here, Mandy. I suspect I feel a song coming on. So let's get to it.
So, what have you been playing lately?
I was going to sing, and I thought, nah, nobody wants to hear me sing, so I'll leave it alone. But I kind of want to sing.
What? Yes.
I feel like I forgot the words. I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and you. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Yeah. Now, I'm sorry if the lyrics are out of match there, but that's all I can remember at the top of my head. So,
lovely. Now, what's funny is sometimes video game folks or movie folks will now lay that track over like a battle scene.
I've
kind of the
noticed that.
dichotomy. And I kind of feel like that applies here too.
Oh my God, can you imagine? You're aggressively putting those cards down. Ah! And then have that face of like in slow motion. Ah! Card goes down, and then have that really nice song in the background. Oh my goodness, yes, we're doing this. Okay, so if you hadn't figured it out already, we're going to be talking about It's a Wonderful World, Corruption, and Ascension. So, It's a Wonderful World is the base game, but I am going to be specifically talking about Corruption and Ascension, which is one of the expansions. And this is designed by Frédéric Guérard, and art is by Frédéric Guérard and Anthony Wolf, published by La Boîte de Jeu and Lucky Duck Games. And it plays 1 to 7 players. Yes, 1 to 7 versus the base, I think, is 1 to 6. I could be wrong. And plays in about 45 minutes. Retails for about $30 Canadian. I think the base game is 43 Canadian. You will need both the base and the expansion to play this game. The Ascension cards that we're going to be talking about in this one will introduce some new play, so changes to scoring, and there's something called corruption in the game. So, a quick background of It's a Wonderful World. A game which I think we have talked about on here previously, a game which I believe we both thoroughly enjoy, and I know a lot of people enjoy it. I guess you could say it's would you say tableau building? How would you describe It's a Wonderful World, Suzanne? It's
Yeah, it's kind of a tableau building, right, where you're building up columns of cards.
Yeah, columns of cards. I'm just trying to think of most
building,
accurate
right?
description. Exactly, because you're trying to...
And they start to play off of each other, yeah.
Right, you want to get resources, and in order to, gain those resources to build other cards. So what's going to happen is you have a kind of like a base card, which will give you, a little bit of resources, and the cards are double-sided, but generally for the first game, they recommend you play with side A. They give you some new ones in the Corruption and Ascension expansion that you can play with as well. And it's a drafting game to start. Now, I should disclaimer this here. I played it solo, okay? So I played the base game with friends and groups, but in this particular expansion, I played the solo variant, and I believe it is the same as the original game. So in the game, normally you would draft cards with other players, pick card, pass it or pass to the next person, pick some more cards, pass to the next person. And then once you're done, then you would decide from cards whether you want to keep the cards or you want to get rid of them and get one of the resources that are on it. It's not the most efficient way to get resources, but it's another way if you're lacking resources to build cards that you've already chosen. In the solo version, it plays similarly, except for the drafting part. Obviously, that doesn't happen. You get piles of cards, and they're made up of some of the base game cards and some of the new cards. And you have 2 sets of these cards that you're going to look through, choose which ones you're going to keep, choose which ones you're going to build, and then you do it again with another set of cards. So I think you have 8 cards that are displayed in the beginning, and you do 2 for each of those quote-unquote drafting rounds. Once you've chosen your cards that you're going to build, you would have put those out and built those already, or potentially these are ones you've tossed and you've gotten the resource. Anytime you gain a resource, it has to go directly on the card. Now we're going to look at what you're going to produce. So these are ones that now you've already built. You've kind of stacked them on top of that initial card I told you that you would have had, and then you're going to go through each one color to see what you have. So there's a main board with different cubes of colors. I think it's like black, green, blue, yellow. And sorry, those are not the correct order, but you will go through those in order to see what you get, because on occasion you end up filling out a card that gets built, but you could still get that resource if it's later on down the line. So timing is really important. So this is generally how a round plays. There are other tokens that you can gain as well that are going to help you toward points. And some of the cards that you're building have end game points. So having X amount of buildings, based on a card you've built will get you more points. The new cards have something called corruption, which makes getting resources difficult. If you have some of these cards, it potentially could negate some of the resources you're getting, which makes it hard when you're trying to build those cards. So you can't get too many of those, or you're going to have no resources of a certain type when it comes time for production. So it plays over 4 rounds. And at the end of those 4 rounds, you're going to count up your points. And now, being solo, I played it with like a campaign. So you could read a campaign and it kind of outlines which cards you need to start with and what kind of score you need to have, and making sure that you build all of the cards that you start with to win. Or you could just play it the regular way and just compare to, a score. Hey, if you scored between this and this, great. If you scored this and this, maybe do better next time. So I'm sure you all know where I ended up on this scale. It wasn't very good, but I had a lot of fun playing. So I played it in the campaign mode, and I managed to build all of the things, but my score was just awful. So it's hard with the campaign, and this game, even in solo, I find it tricky to get those high scores, but I still really enjoyed it. And the new cards do bring a little bit of a twist. It's not overly complicated, but it does kind of take away some of those resources that you may have had before. So you really have to be careful of the types of cards you're playing. People I know really liked the whole 7-player aspect, that you can play with more people, because this is a game I think that does well with a high player count. I thought it did anytime I've played it, and it plays really well solo, but the 7-player count is not in the base game, and I think that people were a little upset about that because they could only get that with the expansion, but I have a feeling it's just because you're getting maybe different types of cards or more cards that will kind of balance it out a little differently. But I do find this game is easy enough. The rules are very straightforward. Now, can you get a high score all the time? Maybe not, and that comes from, playing it, getting to know the game a bit more. So it's not easy, but the games or rule set are not difficult, and I'm here for it because it now opens the door for tons of people to try this game and play. So it's a wonderful world for me. I loved it. Corruption Ascension. I mean, is it vital for you to have this expansion? I'm going to say no. However, if you play this game a lot, then you may want to get something like this to introduce that slight change to the game, because it does add a slight bit of difficulty to it, but not in a frustrating way. And then it also gives you that additional player if you are playing with more people. So for me, I do play this game a lot, so I'm really happy to have the expansion and just add that extra touch. Solo for me, it was really hard, but I think solo players will get a lot out of this game. Lots of decisions, lots of way to play. I think solo players will really enjoy it. So it's a wonderful world. Corruption and Ascension. It's a winner. I think you should give it a go.
Nice. Very cool. And I think sometimes for expansions, that's all you want. Yeah. It doesn't have to flip. You don't want it to flip the game on its head necessarily. So that's cool.
Exactly.
First up for me, a game that I don't know if they're expansions. There's 2 of them out already. They're launching with 2 editions right away. And this is Imperium. There's Imperium Classics and Imperium Legends.
Ooh, yes.
They are the same game. In fact, they're so much the same game that when you open the box, the rulebook includes the components for both editions. They just printed one rulebook and put the same rulebook in the Classics and the Legends box. So when you look at the components, they say, if you have Classics, here's what you get. If you have Legends, here's what you get. Fair. And if you have either one, this is the common stuff between them.
Nice.
From a printing cost point of view, it's efficient. From a product line point of view, it was an interesting thing to first encounter as you were going through that.
Of course.
Imperium Classics, which is the one I'm going to be focusing on today, is designed by David Terzi and Nigel Buckle. The art is by The Miko, and it's published by TheOp.games. In the US, it's going to retail for about $40. Imperium Classics is a deck-building tableau game, kind of a civilization game, right? So it's all card-based. You're going to be starting with a basic deck of cards, and throughout the game, you're going to be getting more cards into your deck that you can play out and try to build this awesome civilization and conquer the folks around you. And the way that you do this is that there's a bunch of different civilizations or factions to choose from. I mean, a lot to choose from. So Classics includes the Carthaginians, the Celts, Greeks, Macedonians, Persians, Romans, Scythians, and Vikings. Woo! Legends goes a slightly different direction, has the Arthurians, Atlanteans, Egyptians, Maurans, Minoans, Olmecs, Qing, and Utopians. Oh my gosh.
What?
And what you do is a player picks one of those factions to play against another person, and everybody just picks. So you can instantly see the variability is extraordinarily high, because each of these factions does play differently. They have different mechanisms, different card bases, different kind of general strategies that you want to work. And they have different difficulty levels to them as well, which the rulebook outlines in the back. So if you're introducing this game to somebody, you can kind of steer them towards a simpler faction if you want to, or you can go for a 5-star difficulty faction out of the gate if that's the kind of player you are. It does adhere to a number of kind of standard deck building elements where you have a card market that you can gain new cards from. There are cards called Unrest that kind of bulk up your deck and bulk up your hand that aren't really playable and you kind of want to get rid of them. And there are different cards, whether it's monuments that kind of stay out and add benefits. Cards can play off of each other. And you can kind of build up a little engine. There are population or resource tokens, and those are kind of your currencies in the game that you'll need to spend population and resources to activate cards and elements like that. There's honestly a lot going on in this game that I don't want to necessarily deep dive into it. But it is a fairly standard mechanically deck building game, but with a ton of intricacies within the individual factions and the individual card plays. There are a ton of icons on these cards. Cards have suits that they adhere to. Cards have icons that they can share. Cards have abilities that use icons on them and things like that. Like, acclimating to the icons will take you a little bit of time. Acclimating yourself to the card format will take a little bit of time just because there's so much going on them. The game also plays competitively, or it has a solo mode as well, in which you select a faction to play and you select a faction to be the bot player. And the game has rules on how you run that bot. And Mandi, I know you're going to be interested in this one, so we'll talk about that a little bit more. Because I have played this multiplayer, and I have played it solo now. And honestly, I've played it 5 times at this point, and I feel like I've barely scratched the surface.
Oh, wow.
The solo, I think it just rides that line for this kind of game of just being the amount of maintenance or work you need to do to manage the bot, I think is fine.
Okay. Interesting.
It's not too much, but it can feel that way. But I think I realized it can feel like it's a lot because every deck has its own bot chart that you have to follow. Because the way it works is that when you reveal a card, according to the rules, the icon on it determines what action happens. And then there's a whole tree of actions depending on that icon. If you can do action 1, do that. Oh, nope, you can't do that. Well, then can you do action 2? Nope, can't do that. Can you do action 3? Yes, you can do that one. Okay, then do that one. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to copy the rulebook pages that have these charts and cut them out. So I'm not like constantly flipping through the rulebook. I can just have that little bot chart in front of me.
Right.
And have a little more compact space. But so I think that that's why it felt like a lot. But once you get into the flow, I think it makes sense and it's really not too bad. There are 2 ways, going back to the multiplayer game, there's 2 ways that the game can end. Somebody finishes their Destinies deck and kind of completes their empire. Or you can drain the Unrest deck. Remember, Unrest are those cards that kind of block up your deck. And whoever has the most Unrest will lose. Or you can move to scoring, and then whoever has the strongest empire will win. Oh my gosh, I know, that's so much, folks. So first of all, let's talk about a couple of the things that I think are kind of iffy in the game. Now, this very much may be my copies only. I want to point that out. But my copies had miscut cards. So between the individual decks within the box, they are slightly different corner roundings and slightly different lengths and widths. Which if you sleeve or if you do a side shuffle, it's not a huge deal. If you riffle shuffle, I didn't find it impacted me too much, to be honest. So it's something I noticed when they're all decked together, but in actual play, it didn't really negatively impact anything. But I wanted to mention it. The other issue I have with this game is the graphic design. It is hugely icon heavy. That happens. We have a lot of games in the world that are icon heavy. But there are just little things that I feel like could have been done differently just to reduce unnecessary cognitive load. So, for example, the tokens that you use to track your resources and your population. They come in 1s, 5s, and 10s. The population tokens have 2 people on them. So it's a token that means just 1 person, but it has 2 people on it. All right, I can grok that. But then the way that they indicate quantities, they go up a little bit in size, but then they put 5 dots above the 2 people. So the 5 dots now means that is a 5 person or 5 population token. And then the 10 population tokens has 5 dots above the population icon and 5 dots below. So there's 10 dots total around these 2 people on the population token. I found you're going through the token and you're like, oh, there's a 5. Nope, that's a 10 because you just didn't see the circle of tokens below it and things like, or dots below it, that kind of thing. I really wish they would have taken a different approach to that kind of thing. And you know, honestly, the last thing you want to do as you're playing this game is you don't want to have to stop and spend even a second thinking about, am I grabbing a 1 or am I grabbing a 5? So some little nitpicky graphic design elements there for me. Again, is it a huge deal? Not really. Because overall, Imperium is a fascinating take on deck building and civilization building games. It does feel intense. There is a lot of text on these cards, which can feel overwhelming, but it's all that variability that adds kind of the variety that you can take for strategies and the differences that you can build your civilizations around and really try to craft a strategy around. So I think that that's interesting and compelling. So it's a game that you need to invest yourself in. It's a game that you need to familiarize yourself with. Like all of these asymmetrical games, the better you know the faction you are playing and the better you know the faction you are playing against, the more strategic and thoughtful and smart your gameplay will be. If that is your thing, then Imperium Classics or Legends, definitely worth a look. Definitely. For me, I enjoyed it solo, and I'm going to do a couple of things to make it a little simpler to play solo. And like I played the Atlanteans, they play very differently, and I loved them. They were so much fun. So anyway, that's Imperium Classics and Legends. No, that was a lot. Thanks for putting up with it.
I'm still waiting for my copies of these, and I mean, unfortunately, because of the situation, we are still in Canada, you know, on lockdown currently, as of the recording of this particular podcast. I would be playing it solo, and I have to tell you, when I hear that things take a lot of time to manage, it's painful that I'm gonna have to manage this. But if you're thinking that I might be okay with it, okay.
Honestly, Mandy, I think the thing you will dislike more is the setup and the breakdown.
Okay.
Because you have to build the deck, and it takes a little bit of work.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely streamlined if you break down the game properly, break down the decks properly at the end of every game.
Right.
It'll be interesting to see. I really want you to take a swing at this. I'm happy to walk you through it a little bit to try to ease your entry into it. I'd love to hear your opinion about it once you get it played.
Yeah, now I'm really curious. Okay, so that'll be, we'll follow up with that after I've played it as well. All right, well, I've got a shorter game to talk about, and I roped Mumsy into playing this one because it is a 2-player game, so I had no way around this one. And it is called The Game Face to Face, and this is designed by Stefan Bendorf and Reinhard Staup. Art is by Olivier Freudenreich and Sandra Freudenreich, and it's published by Nürnberger Spielkartenverlag and Pandasaurus Games. And as I said before, it is for 2 players only, and it retails for about $15 Canadian, and I believe it's pre-order. So if you're like, oh, this game sounds like my jam, and you go to get it, I'm pretty sure it's on pre-order, so just be aware of that when you go to the site or your store in this case. So The Game Face to Face, you're like, well, this sounds familiar. Isn't there something called The Game? And I should say it like this, The Game, because that's literally how it looks when you
the drama reading.
Exactly. Or you could have the other version, which looks like The Game. I know. You could have either version and both play exactly the same. They just look a little different. And in both versions of The Game, you're laying down cards in ascending and descending piles. So in the original one, it's cooperative. You can't discuss your cards, but you're trying to go through the entire deck, but have them put out according to the piles that are set out. So you have one card, and the numbers are escaping me, but one where the cards have to be ascending, and then another pile where they have to be descending, but there's a range for the numbers that they have to be. And so when you place a card, it's like, oh, this is great. You can put it here, but if you get too close to, let's say, the bottom of the descending pile, the last number, then the other player's like, well, wait a second, I also have to put numbers, because they have to be in order. So, you know, if the descending pile ends at, let's say, 2, and you put down a 3, well, you're going to finish that pile before the other player even has a chance if they don't have a 2. And you have to be able to play out a set amount of cards or you lose the game. So it can be tricky because you can't talk right? But you want to try and get those cards out in the correct order depending on the pile you play them on. So that hasn't changed in the game face-to-face. However, it's not cooperative. Face-to-face meaning you're competitively playing this game. So you each have your own set of cards. You each have your own set of, ascending and descending cards to put your cards into. However, tricky, the other player can, I'm going to say help you out, but they're kind of helping themselves by putting a card on one of your piles. But the card cannot hinder you for later. It has to help you. So they can't put a card down that's going to make your pile go, right to the bottom or right to the top so that you can't play cards. So it's
interesting.
Exactly. So, you're each trying to get out your cards and your own piles versus in the cooperative version, you're doing it together to get all cards out into the two piles. This time you're doing your own, but you can play once during a turn on your competitor's pile. So it helps you get rid of a card so you can still keep going if you were stuck, but it also helps your competitor because it kind of boosts their decks with like, whew, not at that threshold. I can, keep using that pile. So as I said before, to win the game, you need to get all your cards out. Obviously, you have to get all your cards out, finish off your deck into your piles. Great, I'm done. But the game kind of is over if somebody cannot do that. So there's like a game is over and you lose kind of element. So in the case of the game that I played, my mom could not get out some cards. So the game basically was over. I'm like, so it's over and you lose. Oh, she was so upset. She was so upset. She's like, I don't know if I like this game. She's like, I like it, but I didn't do very well. We need to play it. We need to play it more. That's literally how she was. She was so upset about it. Oh my gosh. So I think the game is meant to leave you feeling a little bit like that. So yeah. So the game, this version of it, I liked it. I mean, it's two players. That's the only thing. Like, you have to be able to have that other person to play. And I don't always get a lot of two-player games to the table. So that's the kind of only drawback for me. But for some people, this might be great if you have someone else you want to play with. You're familiar with the game. You just want a slightly different take on it. This could be something to try. It's definitely quick. I think it plays, what did I say? I think it's 30 to 45 minutes. I might not have stated that. It's not a super long game. And being the two, that it will shorten that time frame. It's easy enough rule set. It's just a tough game to win, right? Because you have to try and get those cards out in the exact order.
No joke.
The art remains the same. So if you did not like the original art in the game, as I'm going to say, it hasn't changed. It's the same. So it has that kind of skull. I mean, it does. I don't have so much of an issue with it, but I think some people did because it was just a little aggressive or maybe it's just hard to read. But I find the cards are very clear to read. They have the numbers on all four sides and in the different orientations. So whether it's, upside down or not upside down. So you can see what the number is. So I don't have an issue with it, but I know some people are not going to be fussy for the art particularly. And I don't know if there are any plans to make that kind of prettier, softer art as they had done with the game. Card texture and stuff, it's a regular card texture. They're not too hard, not too soft. So I think you won't have any issues. That gets some decent play without, getting some ripped cards or anything like that. The box is small, portable. So that size hasn't really changed. Same size as the other. But the game itself, I enjoy it. Now, I know there are a lot of people who feel these sorts of games are what you'd call activities. What are your thoughts on this, Suzanne?
I firmly call it a game.
Okay.
100%. The game is a game.
And that's where I land on it, but I know there are people who think otherwise, and that's fine. Sure. Feel free to let us know your thoughts on that, but I do feel it still falls into the category of the game. And just so you know, my friend's mom, there is a reason I'm telling you this story. She had a stroke and some other issues, and the game was actually one of the things she played with her mother to kind of get her back, into, using those motor skills and things like that. And she said she loved it and it was really effective. So throwing that out there, if you're looking for some kind of therapy for the brain, works really nicely. And this might be another variation to that. So the game face-to-face, duel between two players, I think is the underline there, I think is quite good and definitely one you should give a try, especially if you are familiar with the original. This just gives a different take.
That's very cool. Thanks for sharing that story.
Yeah, no problem.
I have no meaningful, thoughtful story to share about my next game, but I really like the game.
Good.
And I like the game. The game. Next up for me, Bullet. Bullet. The game Bullet. This is designed by Joshua Van Langenham, and the art or illustrations is by Usani Koren. This is published by Level 99 Games, and it's going to retail in the US for $40. Bullet, I don't know when I first heard about it what to expect from the name of the game, but then somebody explained it's a board game kind of trying to evoke the feel of bullet hell video games. Which, if you know these types of video games, there are these ones where you have a ship flying or a person running around just shooting bajillions of projectiles, right? And avoiding them and working around them and fighting back is kind of the point of the video game. Well, here comes Bullet, the board game, and trying to kind of not mimic, but evoke that feel. I would suggest they accomplished that. So Bullet is a game where it's, again, just like a previous game I talked about, it's asymmetrical. Mm-hmm. So you're going to pick a character, and they have a unique ability and some unique life health count and things like that they're going to do. And you get your personal player board, you get this grid that has columns in different colors, and then you get a big bag of tokens. And those tokens match the color of these grids, and they are numbered 1 through 4. You're going to throw them all into a bag. This is not a pool building or deck building game. You're just going to throw all these tokens to a bag, and then you're going to start drawing them. And you have to take a certain number of tokens into a personal stash and start drawing them out and putting them on your board. Mechanically, it's very, very simple. You draw a 2 pink, then on your board, you count 2 empty spaces down in the pink column, and that token goes right there. Then you draw a 3 pink. Okay, well, now you have to count 3 blank spaces in the pink column, not including the token that's already down there. So you go 1, 2, skip that 2, 3, right? And now you have 2 tokens in there. If you ever have to place a token and the board is full, or it goes all the way to the bottom of the column, it actually slides over and is a hit on your character. And each character has a different number of life points, but basically when you take your last hit, you are out of the game. Well, the bulk of the game is not in just randomly drawing tokens and, oh, oops, I lost. No. There's a real solid puzzle game in here. Because your character has special abilities, and they have these I forget what they call them, but tiles that have things that you can use as well. And so these tiles will say, oh, okay, you can spend an energy to move a token sideways, or you can spend an energy to remove a token, or things like that. That's going to help you a lot to position these tokens in specific patterns, because what you also then have are pattern cards. And when you can arrange tokens in a specific patterns, you can blast those tokens off your board and to your opponent that they have to deal with later. But then they clear you off the board, and then you can take more tokens onto your board and not take those hit points. So that's really the game. Get some tokens out, look at your patterns, use your special abilities to manipulate the tokens on the board, to blast them off, and just to kind of survive, because it is a last player standing kind of game when you're playing competitively that way. There is also a solo mode against boss characters that they've created for the game. I love this mode of play. It is so much fun. I also love it competitively. You're going to look at it, and I don't know if you're going to be like me and you don't know quite what you're looking at, but this is a puzzle game. When it all comes down to it, this is just a puzzle game, and it is a fabulous puzzle game. Now, Mandi, it's timed.
No, my heart literally.
But it's optional. It's completely optional. I will point out it's completely optional.
That's good to know.
Standard gameplay is you get a 3-minute timer, and you got to do what you can in that time. You don't have to use it.
Thank goodness.
Honestly, I'll be honest, the timer is too much for me in this game.
Okay, if it's too much for you, it would put me in cardiac arrest.
Yeah, I think I prefer it untimed.
Okay.
And I still lose a lot, but it's so much fun. I do want to mention the timing thing that's optional, because they released a soundtrack that's you can play off of like Spotify or what's the Bandcamp.
Okay.
And they have 3-minute music tracks. They're all like electronic dance music style tracks, or that sound like they would be in a video game. and that's your timer. They are awesome. So if you're going to play timed, I highly recommend you use the soundtrack they created for the game because it is a lot of fun to play that way. But Mandi, I would suggest you don't play timed.
No, I appreciate the heads up.
Yeah. There are a ton of characters in the game. They all play differently. Their abilities are really interesting to mess around with. The boss battle, I won't go into the solo mode, but the boss battle is really thoughtful and really cool to play against. Bullet from Level 99 Games. If you like puzzly games, check this one out. I'm completely enamored. I know they have an expansion coming out. I cannot wait to play that too because I know one of the characters in there is incredible to play. This just right up my alley, man. Bullet.
I hadn't even heard of it, and I do like Level 99 Games until you mentioned that you were playing the timed element. Not so fussy for that, but I do like the fact that it's optional. So optional is good. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to check this out. So I think I'm going to finish up with, it's not a full game review or anything. I wanted to throw it out here because I'm a little excited about it. Suzanne and I both have this. We're going to talk about this. We have a first kind of look at Oath, which we're going to do after this. I'll do this really quickly, but Colossal, a solo RPG. So this is something that I backed on Kickstarter, and this is by, and I'm pretty sure it's Nick Angel or Angel. So this was on Kickstarter recently. Suzanne also backed this. I don't know if you've started playing, Suzanne, but...
I've got it all printed out, and I've read through the rules, but I have not played my copy yet.
Okay, and that's where I'm at. I've read through the rules. It's laying out here on the table, printed out, got the deck of cards, because you're going to need some cards, and my character has been created. I'm very excited about this, and I'm really enjoying the system. So this is something that I'm going to be going through, obviously solo, but if you're interested in hearing, hey, you know what, this might be something that I might consider, and you want to hear how my journey's going, I am more than happy to kind of do a little taste for you on the podcast, and then that way you can see if it's something you want to try. But I thought I'd throw it out there because I'm starting this journey. I've never done a solo RPG. This is definitely the type of solo game I like. I love writing, storytelling. I mean, as a kid, I loved doing this sort of thing. I even wrote a little book as a child. And no, I will not be reading it to you all. But yes,
I did write a book. That's so cool. Oh, darn
Nothing fancy. So for me, this is like, a very creative writing exercise, and I'm here for it. So if it's something that you're like, oh, we want to hear more, let us know. Email me or, ping me on social media if you're like, no, Mandi, please, we do not want to hear your stories at all. That's okay too, and I am fine with it. So just thought I'd throw that out there. Maybe we can get Suze to share a little bit of hers. We'll see.
It might be interesting just to, even after we play through a little bit of it, just to compare how different our experiences are. I think that would be fun to talk about.
Yeah, I think that'd be cool.
If our podcast family doesn't want to listen, that's okay. We'll just talk about it off air. No big deal. Well, and we've got this big old thing here, and I think that we want to set this up that these are just first impressions because Oath is a massive game. And I knew that going into it, but I don't think I knew how massive until I really started digging into it. And Mandi, I don't know what kind of person you are. Well, I do.
You do. I was going to say, well, wait a minute.
Actually,
no, I think you
let
do.
me retract that. I know exactly what kind of person you are, but I have to admit, I was going to get Oath no matter what. Yeah. I think Cole Worley is just one of the most interesting designers who's making hobby board games. We've talked about Cole's work before in what he brings to the table with games like Root or PAX Premier 2nd Edition. Plus, I think Leader Games does such great stuff. Plus, Kyle Farron's art. There was nothing that was going to stop me from getting this game. That's all there was to it. So absolutely. I have to admit, I didn't necessarily do a ton of research on their Kickstarter. I was just kind of like, Oath, Leader, Cole Worley, Kyle Farron, click, done. So here we are with Oath. Now, Oath, I think people naturally wanted to make a lot of comparisons to Root.
Right.
And I think Leader did a good job of saying, this is not Root. This is a very different game. And that is 100% true. There is some area control. It is card-based play. But you could say that about a lot of other games.
Right.
So here we are. The first thing that surprised me about Oath is that it's not really asymmetrical. It feels more, it's fully competitive, but you have a chancellor And then you have exiles. And all the exiles play basically the same, right? And so that was the first thing that kind of, oh, okay, now I get it, right? So you're going to get into Oath. You're going to pick your roles, whether somebody's going to be the Chancellor and then other people are going to be the exiles. And you're just going to play through up to 8 rounds. And the game ends when the Chancellor meets their victory condition, or when an exile meets their victory condition, and those emerge during the game with these vision cards that you can acquire through gameplay. Now, the way the Chancellor can win is that they control the most sites, that area control thing kicking in, but then after a certain round, and I think it's round 6, I can't remember offhand, they roll a die.
Mm-hmm.
And literally, they can end the game in that first opportunity if they roll a 6. They don't roll a 6, game continues. Next round, they have one chance to roll a die, and if they roll a 5 or a 6, they literally just game over, win the game. And the number gets lower, the threshold gets lower closer to the end of the game. On the end of round 8, right, if the Chancellor still owns the most or controls the most territories, they win. Meanwhile, the exiles are all trying to complete their visions, whether there's an area control element, or there are these banners that you can control, and if you have a specific control over that and meet a specific condition, you can win the game within a certain period, etc., that kind of thing. Some of that feels reminiscent of Root, but some of that's very, very different. And I'll tell you, Mandi, I think it's going to be interesting to see how people react to this, because I think it's going to be controversial.
I think so, too. Absolutely.
So you and I played a game with Carol Tan and Nicole Hoy. And we were in a situation where, as an exile, I managed to get the vision, and I just had a beautiful system set up. But Carol, playing the Chancellor, had already built a strong presence on all of these sites for area control. And I was basically... all I had to do was survive Carol's turn, and not even survive. I just had to get to my turn, and I would have won with my vision. And Carol rolled a 6 and won the game right before me.
Yeah.
So I want to share my opinion on this. Did Carol win on luck?
No.
Yes. But. Yes, but.
Okay. Then it's a yes, but. Okay, I'm here for this.
Look. I think we're going to hear people talking about this kind of thing. And here's my take on it. Carol won on the luck of a roll. Yes. But Carol did all the work in the previous 4 to 5 rounds to build up this site strength so that she qualified to have that lucky roll of the die. So did Carol win on a lucky roll? Yes, but no. There are lots of turns before that we could have done more as a collective competitive team to break down her site control, right? We could have tried to take away her ownership of that card that allows her to win that way. All sorts of things could have happened that didn't happen. It's all happening in the open. So I'm looking forward to hearing what other people think about this. But for me personally, speaking as somebody who lost so close, I love it. I think it's great. I had so much fun losing that game, I can't even deal. Now, Mandi, you were in that game.
Yeah, and I agree with you.
You were saying you kind of agreed.
No, okay. I do, because it's for the exact reasons that you stated. Carol had set herself, and now let's be clear. I also was there. I know it may not seem like it from this explanation, but I did try. Unfortunately, I couldn't get a vision, and then I had to change my strategies a couple times. I'm new to the game, so there are obviously nuances that I missed. And then that turn when we all saw that, oh boy, Suzanne could take this, there really wasn't much I could do. So I saw that, I knew it, and if it didn't happen there, then I had other ways to try and get around it, but it is what it is. Carol set herself up in a way that, hey, she took the time to make sure she owned these places and did all the work. She put all the work in. So her getting that roll, it's not like it was like, you just lucked in, you win. No, she spent several rounds working her way to get to that position. Yep. So to me, that's work well spent, well done, because she could have slacked off all game and I'll just rely on whatever. And then, the roll comes, then maybe you might feel that it was just a luck kind of thing. But no, she put the work into it. And we, as a collective, the rest of us could have gotten together to say, you know what? We don't need the Chancellor to win. We don't want everybody else to win, but in this moment, Carol can't win, and we need to work together, and then we can worry about each other. And I feel like that game does kind of encourage you to do that a little bit. Not too much, but just a touch. And the end result is you want to be the winner. And I can appreciate that, and I like that. It makes you think a little differently, and you're not just thinking about yourself, forces you to be a little more interactive and pay attention to what other people are doing, and I'm here for it. So, yes, I agree with you.
So, folks, Oath, it's got this area control. So you're going to have all these cards that represent sites laid out. And you're going to have a pawn that represents your faction, and get it out there. This is really an action selection game. On your player board, it just lists out all of your options. You're going to have supply points. Do you want to move? Well, guess what? A movement takes 2 supply points. Great. Sure. Oh, now I have 4 supply points left. Oh, I want to muster. I want to get more troops. Okay, well, that costs 1 more supply point and a coin. Oh, well, okay. Got that. Oh, now I'm out of coins, so I can't muster again this turn, that kind of thing. But really, you've got all of your actions laid out. They're right in front of you. They're really straightforward, ultimately. I think there are going to be people who talk about Oath as a heavy game or a deep game or a complex game. I don't know how to describe it, Mandy. Do you think it's... Because after we got into it, the actions you have to choose from are the same. They're right there. The cards all make sense as you read them once you understand the rules of the game. But somehow, just the individual pieces feel like it adds up to so much more, right? The sum is more than the parts kind of thing. Right. And that's what it feels like to me.
I agree. It's a lot. Like, the actions themselves are actually fairly simple. There might be maybe one that has a few kind of quirky things that you have to do. But if is it campaign, I think that's the one that's a bit.
Well, that's the battle one, right? Yeah,
right. Yeah, which makes sense. But all the rest of them are pretty straightforward. It's just there's a lot of things. Like you have to understand that it's a lot of little things to kind of remember, but they're simple. And then on top of that, you have to really wrap your head around how you're going to win. Is it going to be through revision, or is it going to be through? You know what I mean? So it's almost trying to plan out your strategy in addition to playing by learning the actions and how they work with each other. So for me, what was this, our second game we played? I get it. I got it after the first game, but I wasn't strategically getting it. Does that make sense? So I got the rules. I'm like, oh yeah, I see what this does. Sure. I see what this does. But I wasn't using it effectively. And I don't think that's going to happen until I play my third game. And even then, I still think it's going to be better. But I think by the fourth game is where I'm going to be like really getting in there.
I think that's very, very fair. I just know that I'm absolutely fascinated by Oath. I think it's a really compelling, interesting game. It is, of course, a beautiful game. The artwork is excellent. I just love all the different characters, and even just the environments that they do. The location, the site cards are charming. Mm-hmm. The setting of this game is lovely, and I'm very impressed. I'm very, very impressed. I can't wait to dig into it. Mandy, you and I haven't even begun to delve into the campaign element, right? Because the way that Oath works is the way your game B ends influences how game C starts.
Right.
The way game C ends influences the way game D starts.
Right.
Oh my gosh. And it's not legacy because you can just reset everything and go back to start. I love this game. From a first impression. Maybe I'll play a few more rounds and end up hating it. That's always a possibility. But I play a lot of games. And Oath is a charmer. It's perhaps like Imperium that I was talking about. You're going to have to invest in it, though. You're going to have to give it a little bit of time. Get to know it. Have a cup of coffee with it in the morning.
Are you talking about romancing Oath? Is this where we're going?
Not romancing, just building a relationship with Oath. A meaningful relationship with it.
Okay.
So that you get as much out of the experience as you possibly can, because this one's impressive.
And I have to jump in and say that I did like they took some time to think about how the different people learn. Right? People learn differently, and that was taken into consideration.
Yes, just like they did with Root. Yep.
Exactly. I am not the type of person that can sit there and just read a book that does not have a lot of pictures I can't. The ADHD kicks in. I'm off thinking about what's for dinner tonight. I just can't do it. I can't. So I'm the type of person that needs to play, but play and learn at the same time. And I know that doesn't work for everybody. Some people need those rules. They can just cold read and then jump into it. So I do appreciate them giving you kind of a walkthrough. Like, hey, if this is you, do this. Maybe kind of walk through the set kind of scenarios that they have for you. So each character starts off by doing XYZ. The setup is XYZ. There were a few little things I think could have been a little bit clearer there for the example, because I was a bit confused in some areas. We were, just unsure. But overall,
Sure.
I love the consideration for the different types of learners and learning. So that I can very much appreciate. And I do like the fact they give you a book. And I don't know if this comes in all copies. I apologize. The version that I have has a little notebook in it, which when you start doing the campaign, I'm a note taker. I love writing all the things, and this is something I can appreciate, and I really like the fact that they do give that to you as part of it. And the cute sleeves. Again, I don't know if that's a version that everyone got, but those sleeves are so cute for the cards.
Oh boy, I'm jealous now because I didn't get the sleeves, so dang it. Well, anyway, folks, I think we just wanted to talk about Oath, Mandy. Like,
Yeah.
we had so much fun. We just felt we have a platform and we wanted to share our experience, even though we really haven't given Oath as much time as it deserves to really give a real informed review, kind of hashtag official. That's why we want to be really transparent about kind of first impressions. But if you got Oath, tell us about your experiences. Chat us up on social media as you start to explore it. And if you didn't get Oath, hopefully these comments help give you a little more insight into what the game is like and what it feels like so that you can make an informed decision about whether Oath is for you or not. I suspect we're going to revisit this one, folks, because there's a lot more to delve into as we play through it. So prepare yourselves.
Yes, there'll be more. And, big thank you to Ashley, who walked us through our first game. Yes, Ashley the Shark. And there's no need to ask who won that game. Please. If you've listened to the podcast, you know who won.
We own.
So thank you, Ashley, for walking us through that first one. And thank you, Carol, for walking us through the second one, setting that up for us, and for Nicole for joining us. So much appreciated.
Alrighty. That was a lot.
Yes.
But we've got a game pie to serve up to wrap up the show. So let's get some slices into the podcast. I don't know. The analogy just doesn't work. I'm sorry.
Throw some whipped cream on it. We're good.
I mean, everything's better with whipped cream.
Fair point. Brought to you by TheOp.games, also known as USAopoly. Today's featured game is The Batman Who Laughs Rising. Save the multiverse and Justice League with The Batman Who Laughs Rising by TheOp. From the Dark Knight Metal comic series, the evil hybrid of Batman and Joker, the Batman Who Laughs is determined to destroy the multiverse, and the Justice League needs to stop him. In this co-op dice engine building game, gather your team and roll the dice to stop darkness from sweeping over the multiverse. Can you survive and save the multiverse? Available now at TheOp.games or at your local game store today.
Order up!
And now, it's time to order up a slice of game pie.
Escape room games. Dun dun dun.
Whoa.
Game pie. Escape room games. We've talked about series before. Exit, Unlock, Deckscape, Escape Tales. Oh my gosh. Right? There's been kind of a surge in this style of game, which, hey, A-okay by me, because I love them. But honestly, I get asked fairly frequently, and Mandy, I would have to imagine the same as for you. Well, which one do you start with, or which one's your favorite?
Absolutely.
And it's a really hard question to answer.
Super hard.
But we made an attempt. As usual with Game Pie, this is not a top 10. These are not ranked. It's just when, hey, what are some of your favorite escape room games? These are some that pop to mind.
Exactly. So don't at us, okay? That's all it is.
And so, yeah, whether we'll give you a little bit of deets on why they're on our list. There's some overlap here in that I definitely didn't put one on my list because it made it on yours, Mandy.
I'm sorry.
So I'll let you start off with that.
Sure.
No, it's okay because it let me cover another one.
My game pie is like, when you go and you buy a pie and it hasn't entirely filled the crust because maybe you just haven't had enough of that mixture for the pie. That's kind of where my pie sits. I unfortunately just didn't have enough pie filling here to make a really good pie, but what I do have is delicious.
Really? Because see, Mandi, that honestly surprised me. I thought I feel like I've played a number of these with you, but maybe I'm mistaken.
I love them. I don't play, as everyone knows, and I'm being serious, I just don't play a lot of solo, and I know you and Ashley play a lot of these games solo as well. I do not. So unfortunately, if I don't play them with you all, it's harder to get played. But I have played these ones, so let's check out what little pie that I do have, but it's tasty. So the first one that I'm going to tell you about is Escape Tales, Tales of Wormwood. So let me preface this one by saying I haven't finished it yet. I'm in the process of playing with Ashley, and she's a teacher. We're both teachers, but she teaches children, so busy right now, but we hope to get back to it soon. I am loving it. I played the other Escape Tales, Low Memory, I think was the other one, and there's The Awakening, which were both excellent. But this one, I'm just something about it I'm really enjoying. Like, I love, what's his name? Is it Gilbert? No. There's a character that they have in the game, and then they have cards that measure like his charisma, and oh my goodness, what's his name? You know who I'm talking about? Gilbert.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Gilbert, but yeah.
I thought he was French, so I said Gilbert. Anyway, I don't want to give too much away from the game there, but there's some different things in the game that are not in the other one, and I think I like where the storyline is going, but the mechanics of the way the game plays is very similar to the previous ones. So I don't want to give away too much because it spoils it for you, but I'm really...
Oh, yeah, we can't... Yeah,
that's as far as I'm going to go.
No spoilers.
Gilbert is as far as you're going to get with this one. Escape Tales, Tales of Wormwood. I'm very much enjoying, and I can't wait to finish it.
Now, this is the one, it would have made my list if you didn't talk about it. I love the system Escape Tales uses. Now, I've had some highs and lows in terms of specific puzzles or storylines. Awakening got very dark. Whoosh! And my game group did play all the way through Tales of Wormwood. Absolutely my favorite of the series. And really, it just was a stellar experience. I thought Gilbert brought a lot to the table, and just end-to-end. It's actually one I really would like to replay. So good. And I think there's space for it to be replayed. First slice for me, an exit game. Dead Man on the Orient Express. It's interesting. I feel like with so many of the exit games, they're kind of divisive, because I've definitely heard people say they hated Dead Man on the... In fact, I think Tom has said he hated
he didn't care
Dead
for
Man
it.
on the Orient Express. Well, Tom's wrong, because it's a great one. I loved it. It offered something different mechanically with the way that you explored the different trains, which is not a spoiler. We're not going to spoil anything in these discussions. But I thought Dead Man brought something interesting to the series, and I had a blast with the puzzles. And thematically, I thought that mystery solving was a lot of fun. So Dead Man on the Orient Express, one of my favorite escape room games.
I liked this one. And I'm not going to say it was easy. That's not the right word. But the level of difficulty of this one was... I'm touching my nose here. Spot on for me. Well, I'm following this up with another exit slice of pie. This time, the Catacombs of Horror. So it actually, the way I just said it, literally is how the box looks. So it's a little scary looking, but I liked this one. It's a little different because it's what you consider a two-parter. So they recommend that you play it in 2 parts, or if you're going to play it through, it's going to be a lengthier one. But I loved the theming of this one. I liked some of the fun surprises in this particular one. I just overall really liked it, and I love the dark theme. I know that sounds really bad when I say that, but I think you all know what I mean. So the Catacombs of Horror, exit, very nice.
I love that one too. It was a really good one, and again, they got pretty creative with some of the puzzles there.
Absolutely.
Next slice of pie for me is from the Escape Room in a Box series. And I will say, one of my frustrations with this genre of games is the way they title themselves.
Yeah.
They all start to sound the same. So Escape Room in a Box or Escape Room the Game, those are different series.
I didn't know.
Come on, why would you know that? Escape Room in a Box, werewolf. Oh my goodness, so much fun. A bigger game, it's in a bigger box, and that's because it comes with tons of stuff.
Wow.
Right? It's got little plastic bits and bobs. And because it's a slightly more expensive game and a slightly bigger box, again, just like Exit, the destruction of components opens up puzzle options a little bit more. Escape Room in a Box brought so much with the different kinds of components, molded plastic, custom locks, all this other stuff that just made the experience so much fun to explore. The puzzles made sense. You feel like you were clever when you solved something. You felt like you were exploring a narrative as you were playing through it. Definitely one that I think is better with 3 or 4 people. And the components allow you to do that, right? You're not all huddled over a single card trying to figure out where the hidden number is. So Escape Room in a Box, a great one for a family or a group of folks to play through. I loved it.
I have not tried any of these, and I'm glad you specified there is a difference because just hearing them, I'm like, isn't it the same thing? So, yeah.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, definitely want to maybe try at some point. Well, next up, we're off to see the wizard, the wonderful Wizard of Oz. And you're wondering why I'm singing that song? Because I'm going to talk about Unlock Wizard of Oz. So I think we've mentioned it before. Unlock is actually the series I have played the least. I think I've only played 2, including this one. I do generally prefer the exit system. However, I do like the replayability with a lot of the Unlock series, and I loved just the theme of this one. And I think I also had a really great experience because I played with some really great people. So this is one I just think you should all give a try. And I think Tom liked this one. Eric had liked this one. Suzanne, I think you liked this one. So definitely one I think you should all give a whirl.
I remember liking it for a number of reasons, but it's also the one that has really divergent endings, apparently.
Okay.
And I thought that was unique and cool there, too. And to wrap up this escape room game pie, Exit, House of Riddles. For whatever reason, and Mandy, you played the other one that came out at the same time as this one, the roller coaster one.
Yeah,
and I think
like
you
that
liked
one too.
that one a lot, too.
I do. That was great.
So for whatever reason, I think they hit a magical point with games. If folks ask me, well, which Exit game do I start with? Secret Lab is a good one, but then I would always recommend House of Riddles. It just hit a sweet spot where the story and the puzzle difficulty all came together beautifully. There were none of those puzzles that felt like, really? That's how you get there? No, right. Every puzzle made sense, but every puzzle was interesting. And I loved my play of House of Riddles so much. I think they nailed it. And certainly, if you are looking for an exit game to start with, top of my list for that one. So House of Riddles.
Yeah, those level ones are good. And a lot of people go, it's a 1 or a 2 or whatever. I think it's a 2 level. It doesn't mean it's easy. It's just different types of puzzles. And I think people shouldn't shy away from it because sometimes what's easy for one person is not easy for somebody else. So something to consider.
That's a great point. And like, I'd love to talk more about why I like House of Riddles so much, but I feel like it would stray into spoilery territory.
I think
but
so.
Heavily agree with you, Mandy, in terms of the types of puzzles and how people's brains work are so different. And House of Riddles does a really good job with that.
I agree. Such a good,
That wasn't too spoilery, right?
No, it was good. It was perfect.
And honestly, Mandy, I'm super excited for what Exit is doing next because they're releasing or have just released the brand new The Deserted Lighthouse and The Sacred Temple. They have jigsaw puzzles in them.
I am so excited. I am actually really good with puzzles. Like the one thing I can confidently go into an Exit game and say, yes, I have a very good skill here. Jigsaw puzzles are my jam.
Oh, that's good to know, because I'm excited to explore them in context of an Exit game as a component. Did you know Ravensburger actually did kind of a puzzle escape room thing?
No, I did not know this.
Ooh, they're just jigsaw puzzles. They're not packaged like an Exit game, but they're puzzles that there are mysteries on. And as you assemble the puzzle, you can discover more of the question. And apparently there's some cleverness in how those work. I think you need to check these out.
Okay, after we're done recording, you need to because these I could play with my mom. She loves mystery, kind of puzzly things like this.
I think that's a great idea.
Okay, I'm in for this.
we discovered something new together.
I know.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm excited to explore these new exit games for sure.
Me too.
Alrighty, folks. Enough of escape room games. Hopefully you've found some that you enjoyed. There are digital escape room games that I want to try out there and just haven't had a chance to dedicate the time to, but I think it's such a fabulous form of analog gaming. People are just far too clever for their own good, though.
Right?
Alrighty, folks. We will wrap up this episode of the Dice Tower Podcast. Thanks to everybody who's been sending us questions and suggestions. We appreciate it. All those butterfly ideas for Mandi. If you want to send us a message, you can always reach out to us on social media or at our email addresses. I'm Suzanne at Dicetower.com.
And I'm Mandi. That's Mandi with an I at Dicetower.com.
As always, it is a pleasure and privilege to be here podcasting, talking about board games with you, and to be part of your extended gaming family. Thank you so much for having us, and for all of your messages and all of your votes on our Board Game Geek Guild. It's super fun. Next episode, 714, apparently I'm going to be invading Tom and Eric's episode. Dun, dun, dun. And we're going to be talking about some favorite 1v1 dueling games.
Interesting.
I have opinions. But until next time, I'm Suzanne Sheldon.
And I'm Mandi Hutchinson.
And you've been listening to The Dice Tower.
Thanks for listening. Promotional consideration has been provided by game publishers in the form of review copies of games. This podcast is sponsored by listeners like you. Thank you for your continued support. And speaking of support, the Jack Vassell Memorial Fund is an organization dedicated to helping gamers in need. Learn more about the fund's mission and how you can help at jackvassell.org. The Dice Tower is produced by Tom, Suzanne, Mandi, and Eric with assistance from Roy Canaday and Rob Searing. Our theme is composed by Timothy Pinkham and arranged by Matt Bellier. Let us know what you think of the show by posting to the Dice Tower Guild at BoardGameGeek.com, following the Dice Tower on Twitter, or by emailing us at podcast@dicetower.com. And don't forget to visit the other shows in the Dice Tower Network at dicetowernetwork.com. Until next time, from all the gang at the Dice Tower, have fun gaming. Everyone, it's that time again for Two Truths and a Lie. I'll go first with mine from last episode. So I own 6 robes, I have a cape and a cane, and I nap almost every day. If you chose I nap almost every day as the lie, that would be correct. Now, reading that, you would think I was a bit older than I am. Not even gonna lie to you, I would love to nap every day. I'm always tired, but I'm just too busy. What can I say?
Naps are amazing.
They're so good.
Last episode I said I play Pokemon Sword, I play Pokemon Go, and I play Pokemon Snap. And the lie is, I play Pokemon Sword. I really like the adjacent Pokemon games, but I've never really played any of the hardcore core Pokemon games.
Oh, interesting. I could have sworn you had. I learned something new myself. All right. Oh, well, new up this episode, and I think it's because I have candies that Suzanne sent me, so they're on my mind at the moment. So here we go. I've tried candy from Russia, I've tried candy from New Zealand, and I've tried candy from South Africa. There we go.
And new for me this episode, this one may be an easy one. I hate lemonade stands, I hate garage sales, and I hate bake sales.
Oh my goodness, quite the two things you have to choose from here. Good luck, everybody.